What fictional character could someone say, oh yeah, they're my role model about that would make you slowly back away? Snape, especially when said in relation to romantic endeavors. This deserves more upvotes. Snape is such a horrible person. I hate that people are like, ah, he's misunderstood. Like nope, understood him perfectly. He's a pissy adult who thinks that it's a kid's fault the person he loved, more like obsessed with and sorta stalked, is dead. So the argument that he is an ass to Harry because of love is such bullshit. Why is he a bag of ducks to Neville or Ron or Hermione or literally every non-Slytherin he interacts with? Neville, whose parents were tortured to the point of being insane, said as a 13-year-old that his greatest fear was a teacher at the school he went to. That should tell you everything you need to know about Snape. The Punisher. Frank is a very unwell man. He represents what happens when the justice system fails. Edit. Well, I'll be darned. Thanks for the silver. 2 silvers. That's nuts. On my cake day no less. I remember reading that John Bernthal gets pissed off when fans say how much they idolize his character. Dio Brando. Okay, but can his muscles be my role model? Then it's Jonathan, and that's a great role model. Always amazed by the number of teenagers who take Tony Montana from Scarface as a role model. The whole point of the movie is to show how terrible of a person he is and how ducked up his vision of the American dream is. Also a lot of edgy kids comparing themselves to the Joker. We live in a society. Also, Tony was an incompetent leader. People idolize him as this hardcore cocaine kingpin, but the dude couldn't even handle part of Miami. He ducked with bigger fish than himself and immediately got the smackdown. If he was better at his job, he would have been able to expand past part of a single city. Kira Yashikage. Dude wants to live a normal, calm life without anyone to bother him. I get it. If someone said a guy like that was their role model, I totally understand and probably say the same thing. But blowing women up to take their severed hands because of your fetish while also complaining about wanting a normal life? Yeah, then I'm backing out. Regina George. Enough said. There was a group of girls at my high school who unironically called themselves the Plastics. Ew. Really? She was so fetch. Dr. House has the same problem. Been an ass is not equal as been a genius. To be fair, if you always ended up figuring out every obscure medical emergency, but no one ever listened to you, after about the 100th time this happened you'd probably get a little grumpy. Johnny Bravo. That was my ex's favorite cartoon because he related to poor Johnny not being able to just control women. He had the bod. If Johnny had been a little smarter, he could have been a master manipulator. The confirmation of that was watching my ex. Watching the episode where Johnny Bravo gets dating advice in a musical parody of Schoolhouse Rock. They actually got Bob Duro, the original SHR voice actor. The singer teacher is rolling down the list of usual stuff. Listen to her, show respect, have manners, when the teacher gets to the last word of advice, which is sincerity. If you can fake that, you can fake anything. My ex had been raptly paying attention, and when that line was delivered, he physically nodded in agreement, and said out loud, "That's right." Why oh why did I stay with that guy? Can you elaborate? He's just such an over-the-top Chad that not even women like him. It's awkward. Monica from Doki Doki. People actually view her as a role model? Yike. Imagine viewing a generic VN character with a cool twist to be a role model. Big yike. Literally any Final Fantasy protagonist. Grand Wizard Waka is an inspiration to us all. Yeah? Most of the main characters are pretty flat. There's not really that much to go on there. Tifa definitely isn't flat. The Man Who Killed Hitler. Pac-Man. Baba Yaga. Wick isn't meant to be a role model. He's just meant to be the incarnation of rage, and even though he knows what he's doing is pretty dark, he's a man pushed over the edge. Only things I could see being inspirational about him is his skills, persistence and intimidating reputation. Baba Yaga come at night. The Joker, or even Batman. The Joker for obvious reasons, and Batman because in reality, he's a very, Very rich man with severe superiority issues and a pathological need to remain a hero to many people. In the comics, the relationship between Batman and the Joker is symbiotic. Without one, the other barely exists. Simply, in times when Batman is out of Gotham, the Joker halts his ways because it's widely accepted that they both need each other in order to feel complete. Furthermore, Batman had the opportunity to kill Joker on multiple occasions but didn't, because he knew that without the Joker, he too would have no purpose. I don't think that's anything anybody should wish to recreate or encourage. Dissimilarly, however, Harley Quinn might actually be a good role model to some people. In the comics, she's presented as a woman who gets tricked and abused by the Joker, but in the end leaves him. This shows her strength of character and her wisdom. And the ways in which she deals with his constant bullying after she escapes the relationship show her to be a great role model for survivors of abusive relationships such as myself. Also, not a fictional character but John Lennon. The man's a musical genius, but the ways in which he treated those close to him were horrible, and should never be encouraged or romanticized. You know Gassé. If they are a really pretty chick with grey dead eyes saying that I can't resist. You know, as a character has more justification for their actions if you understand how the ending affects the entire story. I really gotta rewatch Marry Nikki. I remember so little about it other than I thought it was fantastic. Darth Vader. Asthmatic people aren't allowed to have positive representation? So much for the Tolerant Rebel Alliance. Tony Stark. While the character is great, the people who try to emulate him are basically incels. I used to have a friend who would avidly ask the question, which Avengers are we? Among my friend group. He would never get Tony Stark and get so pissed. One time someone suggested that I was most like Iron Man and he got so offended that he said he's not smart enough to be the one like Iron Man. I'm more like Iron Man. Basically, his insecurity destroyed my ability to enjoy his presence at all, to the point where he insulted me as well. And that's the problem with power fantasy characters like Iron Man, is it makes people who obsess over them become all I am very smart and think insulting people like a douche is emulating RDJ's charisma. Oh, and now that friend wears a goatee. Thanos. The toughest ducks require the strongest bills. I'm sorry, Waddle Wands. Barney Stinson from Him. He absolutely had no respect for women and treated them like objects. He was fun to watch on TV, but it's a red flag for me if someone idolizes him. Rorschach from Watchmen. A couple of weeks ago I clicked on a video about how the new Watchmen TV show was going to be SJW trash or something. I didn't even end up watching the video, so I have no idea what points they made. The top comment was a guy complaining that the show was going to present Rorschach's followers as villains, and also that Rorschach had inspired this commenter's own sense of justice. To be clear, we're talking about a murderous, absolutionist ultra-right-wing vigilante who was deliberately written to be a critique of vigilante-type superheroes. There's just super ironic about a person who considers a character that was written to demonstrate why vigilantes are bad role models, as their own role model. Alan Moore, the creator of the character himself, said that he thinks the guys who come up to him and say they really identify with Rorschach are psychopaths. James Bond. He is a deeply damaged character with no respect for authority, a death wish and probably a wide range of sexually transmitted diseases. He got laid and we don't. That guy from 500 Days of Summer. Agreed. Tom was toxic AF. Gatsby and Daisy. I feel like most of America had to read The Great Gatsby in high school, yet so many people don't understand that they're the actual worst. I still remember The Great Gatsby from high school. It was one of those books I could never really appreciate until later in life. I'd even argue that Nick wasn't even a good person. He acts like a bystander the entire time, like the actions of these eccentric rich duckholes are out of his control, when there were many times he could have chosen to intervene. Jaffer. Jacklos. I would do despicable things to make Jasmine love me too. Jasmine in the original film was 15. Scarlett O'Hara. People be reading a different book than what I read if you don't think she's the ducking villain. Because obviously to have any strength as a woman you have to be an irredeemable witch, as if not obvious. Phantom of the Opera. Romanticizing that character is just full-on creepy. He tried his best to be romantic, but he's just so ducked up. Rick Sanchez or Don Draper. I feel like these kinds of characters have likable traits, but a lot of young men totally overlook the fact that they are massive pieces of shit. For real, being Don would be a nightmare. Everything he gains he loses. His wives, his children, his business. It all crumbles to ash because of things he did. He's style without substance. And the worst thing is, he knows it. Rory Gilmore. The girl stars out as a straight-A student eager to get into a private high school so that she can make her one dream come true, getting into Harvard University to study journalism to be the next Krishna Manpur. Her hobbies include reading and watching movies. She likes really obscure movies, watches old 1950s TV shows, and her favorite book is War and Peace. She never gets in trouble at school. She's mostly respectful towards her mother. And then, somewhere along the way she loses her virginity to a married man, her ex. She ends up a 32-year-old with no stable income, living out of a suitcase with her college boyfriend who is about to get married. She has one-night stands with people coming from a Star Wars convention. She ruins relationships left and right. She ends up going against her mother's wishes to write a book about her mom's life, and eventually she ends up pregnant, probably not even knowing who the dad is. Rory Gilmore, as an adult watching the show, is a spoiled rich kid, and there's no two ways about it. Sure, she has admirable dreams and goals, and she is a hard worker, but she's only able to do half the things she does and achieves due to connections, her grandfather especially, being rich and having that last name. Rory Gilmore has been handed everything to her by her family and circumstances, like how she is just the most beautiful girl there is, slender, big blue eyes, perfect hair, and thanks to her mother a quirky and unsewable personality. Rory Gilmore is a horrible role model, because Rory Gilmore is too perfect, and the writer even admitted that the sleeping with taken men was supposed to make her flawed. Major mistake there. I wanted to be Rory Gilmore. I still kind of do. I want to go to Harvard too. I want to read 500 books a year. I want to have boys chasing after me. I want perfect hair and blue eyes and cute freckles. Rory Gilmore isn't real. What fictional role model have you heard from someone that you disapprove of? Tell us in the comments below. And hey, like and subscribe for more crazy stories.